Northern Greece, 2006, Part 2. I wanted to go and planned on visiting the Meteora for years. They truly appear so magnificent and extraordinary that when seeing some picture or a program on them, one cannot help feeling a strong desire to visit them and see them for oneself. When I finally visited them for the first time in 2006, going there with my hiking club, I was a part of a group that came there by a coach. As hikers logically encourage and support walking, I decided to go on foot with a few people from the group all the way from St. Stephen's Monastery to the monastery of Great Meteoron. Although the monasteries do not appear at first sight to be far one from the other, owing to numerous curves, the length of the road is actually almost 5 kilometers. But this is absolutely worth it, and moreover, I recommend it wholeheartedly for this distance to be covered on foot, because with each step there is a new and magnificent view either at one monastery or more of them. They all belong to a group under the joint name Meteora, which means in the air. Where on that day we came to visit the Meteora, we first headed towards St. Stephen's Monastery, but as it turned out, the monastery was closed for the day. As I've mentioned in the first part of the text on northern Greece, not all the monasteries are opened every day and during the entire day, and when planning the visit, it would be prudent to check the timetable of the hours when they are open for visitors. As far as St. Stephen's Monastery is concerned, although I didn't visit it this time, the important fact is that the church in the monastery was built in the 16th century. The next monastery on our way was the Holy Trinity Monastery, founded in the 15th century. It is one of the monasteries that you may get close to by a car or a coach, but in order to visit it, you have to go on foot. The path first leads downwards from the road, and then you have to go up the stairs that have in one section been chiseled through the rock itself. Look carefully at the photograph in my blog, and you will see the stairs to the bottom left from the inscription and above it. Walking along the road at one point, I enjoyed a wonderful view of Kalambaka that lies at the foot of the Meteora. But, as I've said, with every step one makes, there is a new angle of view, or all of a sudden there are new vistas of the monasteries we were yet to reach. In order to get to the monasteries Roussanou and St. Nicholas, it is necessary to turn from the road leading towards the monastery of Great Meteoron. Still, I think it is better to visit first the monasteries of Varlam and Great Meteoron, and then to return to the junction and turn towards those other two monasteries. For this road also leads down to Kalambaka. Both monasteries, Roussanou and St. Nicholas, were founded in the 16th century. There are also huge rock formations with no monasteries on top, but in few places on their sides it is possible to notice some shallow caves that used to be inhabited by hermits of the past. The monastery of Varlam, dedicated to martyr Varlam, originates from the first half of the 16th century. This is the second largest monastery in the Meteora. In order for this monastery to be visited, Here it is also necessary to cover numerous steps, as well as a bridge that links two large rocks. In addition, here one can see quite nicely a cableway that is used for the purpose of transporting goods required by the monastery. In the past, a manually operated winch was used, but nowadays the whole system is mechanized. The biggest monastery within the Meteora is the monastery of Great Meteoron, founded around the middle of the 14th century, and its church is dedicated to the Transfiguration. Nowadays, there is a small museum within the monastery which displays elements of monastic life for tourists. Here, there is also a supply cableway. For Serbs, however, there is a particularly interesting fact that one of the founders of the monastery came from the Serbian royal dynasty of the Nemanjić, a nephew of the Serbian Emperor Dušan, Jovan Uroš Nemanjić, who became a monk here, taking the name of Joasaf. Over time he was canonized. And now a slightly light-hearted remark on my side, which concerns a view of the monastery of Varlam. Look at the picture that you can find on my blog. Don't you think that the rock on the right-hand side resembles a bunny's head? And finally, as a farewell from the Meteora, here is once again a sequel of beautiful photos with divine Byzantine spiritual music. Over the next several days, most of the hiking group went to climb Mount Olympus, but as I was quite unfit, I stayed back with a few of my friends, spending the time either on the beach or walking around some flatland places near the shore. I do regret not climbing Mount Olympus, but I know from the stories of numerous hikers that this is no small thing, and that this is quite an endeavor. To say the least, that seems only natural. It cannot be a small feat to go up there and meddle into the daily routine of gods. Towards the very end of our stay in Greece, we went to Thessaloniki. There we first had some free time to do some minor sightseeing in the center of the city, but the main reason for coming here was to pay a visit to the military cemetery Zeytinlik. This is the place where there is an international military cemetery with the graves of Serbian, French, British, Italian and Russian soldiers from World War I, while after the war Greece ceded this entire large space free of charge for the needs of the military cemetery. When one enters from the street, there is a wide path leading towards a plateau in the middle of which there is an imposing mausoleum that includes a chapel and a crypt with an ossuary. Around the plateau there are crosses for around 2,000 Serbian soldiers, although 7,441 Serbian soldiers in total were buried at this cemetery. The complete material for the construction of the mausoleum, as well as the marble crosses, were brought from Serbia, and around the plateau there are cypresses, the saplings of which were brought from the Serbian monastery of Hilandar, located on Mount Athos, or Holy Mountain, in Greece, east of Thessaloniki. On the front side of the chapel there is a mosaic of the Holy Archangel Michael, and on the back side there is a mosaic of St. George. Both on the front and on the back sides there are verses by Serbian poet Vojislav Ilić Jr., who lived from 1877 to 1944. The first three strophes are on the front side, while the other three are distributed across the back side, where there is also the entrance into the crypt. A few years ago I had the honor and great pleasure to be commissioned to translate this poem into English for the needs of some ministry. I don't know, in fact, what they eventually did with it, but I kept my translation, and here it is. Foreigner unknown, when you by chance pass by this holy joined tomb so sublime, behold, for this is the eternal resting place of the greatest heroes of our time. Their parent is the brave Serbian nation, of the world's historic warfare a giant, that has treaded all the paths of temptation, and whose soldiers are worthy for being defiant. They fell from bullets, hunger and thirst. To the cross they were nailed on the Golgotha height, but the firm belief in the final victory they have never lost from their sight. Blessed be the descendants that for them grieve, for they were the pride of their nation. Blessed be them for the glory they achieve, for the fatherland, for the king and liberation. Before the door to the homeland, in their victorious and valiant tread, they gave their lives grandly for unity and freedom to go ahead. Their deeds will be celebrated until the last days of doom. Glory to the flock of the immortals, peace to the great ones laid down in tomb. Since the anniversary of the breach of the Macedonian front was officially and ceremoniously marked on that day when we were there were also representatives of the World War I Allied countries' delegations present at the cemetery, as may be seen in one of the pictures. Still, the main event marking the anniversary of the breach of the Macedonian front was held at the memorial site in Polikastro. I guess that a large number of tourists who enter Greece by road coming from the north are in too much of a hurry to reach their summer destination on the Greek shores, and do not care to notice that at only some 20 kilometers from the border between northern Macedonia and Greece there is a smaller road leading from the main one, and only a couple of 100 meters away one may visit this site, the Five Nations Memorial or the Inter-Allied Memorial. The memorial is dedicated to the heroic sons of Serbia, France, Italy, United Kingdom and Greece, who faithfully to the legacy of their ancestors fought in these places and gave their lives for freedom and world peace from 1916 to 1918. In 2006, a group of hikers also constituted a part of the delegation from Serbia. It was all very ceremonious, and the war heroes of the 5 countries were properly honored, as may be seen in the photos. And the Serbian soldiers, who needed less than 45 days to cover 600 kilometers on foot and through battles in order to reach Belgrade and liberated on the 1st of November 1918, and who were occasionally faster than the French cavalry, finally saw the day when they could go back to their homeland.